Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Travis Told You. I am the host, Travis Snell. Your host, whatever, the host, who knows. Video people, good to see you. I didn't even know I was live there for a second. Usually got the setup and stuff, but not going live right now because it's 11 p.m. where I am. Luckily not tired and whatnot. Head over to Patreon because maybe you begin that early and stuff like that because I don't know when this is going up exactly, so we'll see here. Yeah, so what a weekend. What a cast we're in store for. Man, let's just kill this music fully. Crazy as far as just what our main topic is. We don't really have it. The main topic, I'm going to talk a little wrestling at the back half. But for the most part, it's going to be about the Flash. And I will say, for people that haven't seen the Flash, just no spoilers or anything like that. Nothing very specific. Nothing that wasn't in the trailer, at least, right? Excuse me. You can go do all that and download the episode. A big thank you. I don't know where it's going to land as far as our episodes. I think it'll be probably top 5 this year, so I thank you for that. It's always good that you guys and gals and everyone else in between check out our episodes because one helps us create more content and whatnot, but also just there's lots of podcasts out there and stuff like that, right? So we thank you for picking us. But yeah, all links are down below. You know, the rigmarole and stuff like that. You got about a month and 10 days to get those 50 patrons to unlock those 5 episodes for everybody. If not, they're locked in the vault forever or whenever we try and do another goal. We really appreciate you go back in the cast or a couple casts like last month or so about the reasons why we're doing it, how it could help and stuff like that. But yeah, so go do all that. We appreciate it. Patreon, ad-free, early exclusive episodes over there. Get a bunch of retros early, like 9 episodes X-Men retrospective. Indiana Jones, you can get all those early right now. That'll be coming out next week as far as the movie review, but the retros will be sporadically dropping. So lots of good stuff happening at the Geekverse land and everything like that. And we'll be a little bit busy because I think you'll get a lot of, Secret Invasion, I know Secret Invasion is this week. It should just be Dylan and myself because hopefully Taylor Madison would have had their baby by then. I think Monday is the kind of official, hey, if it's not going on, it's time to, maybe get too many details away. But it'll be here very soon and stuff like that. And then Kirk comes on a little vacation until Indy. So yeah, me and Dylan will probably hold down. Me and him got a side quest this week. But yeah, that, like I said, there may or may not be a Black Mirror review for me and Dylan. I watched 2 episodes so far. So we'll talk about it one way or another. Then a couple weeks from now is the next After 9. So check out all the good jazz. Get down to the below. Get down or go down below for all the details. And let's get into this. Sorry, I got distracted by the phone. It's one of these things I hate when you go, I'm starting a podcast and like a bunch of stuff pops off. And it's like vital stuff because it has to do with my job and stuff like that. It's like, why are you texting me at 11 p.m.? I get it. It's I'm in a much more important job, work with hospitals, but sometimes it's like, what if I was asleep? What would you do? Plan a bit better, But anyway, so oh boy, so this is gonna be a Flash-oriented episode. Like I said, go check out our review. Very fun. A big thank you to also those people that have comments that they enjoyed it. I think it was a fun one. It's my favorite reviews. There's always mixed reviews, right? There's the very analytical ones and the very laughy ones. My favorite reviews, episode podcasts are the middle, unless it's After 9, because After 9 those are usually just an all good time, and that's just fun catching up with everybody. It's just pretty much like hanging out. But for a episode where like, hey, this is our official small business job, those are the best ones. Those are the ones I put out. Go, hey, this is what kind of is Geekverse in a nutshell, right? So we did that. Again, thank you. If not, go check it out now. There is a non-spoilers portion, so if you want to hear that, maybe you're checking it out later or checking it out on Max, as maybe some other people are going to be doing, judging by the box office. Oh, sorry. And then, or there's a whole spoilers version and stuff like that. But, so we got the box office. So we had, I don't think the Thursday was awful. It was like a 9.7, so almost 10 million. So it was like not anything massive as far as some other Thursday night premium, but it's okay, this is acceptable, right? And we've gone from Whirlwind where it was tracking at one point like 120, 140, but that was more like a outside source like I talked about. Travis told you where, okay, maybe that wasn't like some official tracking or the best of tracking, right? And as we've talked about this year, I can't remember, I should have found the thread before here, but there's a whole list of tracking that's been off this year. It's people putting tracking where it's like, oh, it's 70 million, then 73 million. Like, that's not anything crazy to really sneeze at and stuff like that. But eventually, as it kept going around, it was like we talked about this, that the tracking was looking at like it was either like I think it's 60 to 80, right? And this is where I have no problem eating crow, and I'll eat crow on multiple things here. I said, and even this wouldn't have been as bad, but I said there's no way this is not making 100 million. Uh, that didn't happen. Didn't make 100 million, and then it ended up below the expectations. So the Flash right now for the 3 day, I can't remember. I saw some place say like a 4 day. I'm not sure if the states have a holiday or what's going on, or maybe they're counting the Thursday. I don't know. But either way, for the 3 day, from the Friday to Sunday, there'll be an actuals on Monday, so it might be a little higher, a little lower. But as of right now, it's tracking for like a 54.9 or pretty much 55 million, and obviously the lowest projection was 60, right? There's multiple brands going on. Like Fast is declining. Transformers had another big. Like I'll talk. There's not much else to talk about the other box office. Elementals that had its worst Pixar opening, worst Pixar day. It only made what was it? I think like a couple million more than Spider-Verse, and Spider-Verse has been out, 3 weeks, so good for Spider-Verse. So bad weekend for Pixar. So that's the thing, Pixar having some bad weekends. Fast and Furious have some big drops already in digital. Transformers had like a 67 drop in, I think it's 67 here and like 66 in overseas. So it's like, it's not just because this has been the whole in my circles, right? Whether it's our Discord, the Twitter, and stuff like that. And usually I stay off Twitter. Today I was on Twitter quite a bit because it is like, okay, I want to see everyone's like false opinions and stuff like that, right? There's the odd event that gets me there. Usually, other thing is to like wrestling pay per views. That's when you'll find me on Twitter the most. Most weekdays, most weekends, I turn the phone off, put away, and everything like that. Oh, and also a big happy Father's Day to everybody that is listening that has been a father, is a father, becoming a father. Hope you had a good day and whatnot. My day was kind of bungled because we're going to do a bunch of stuff outside, cold and rained here, but we got pizza. We watched some movies. Kind of had a lazy day too because Gwen's sick, and we had lots of dance recitals, stuff like that. So it was a busy weekend. So at the end of the day, it's like, we want to do some stuff, but maybe it was good to have like a nice little slow down watching Batman the Animated Series. So again, happy Father's Day to everyone listening. So that's been the debate, right? And that's where I was home. So there's times where the kids are sleeping, they're watching a movie and stuff like that. I'm scrolling. I am scrolling because it's one of these things of like, okay, it's a situation that I don't understand, and it's going to be a situation that'll be talked about forever, right? I think the biggest comparison to me, and it's funny that it's a DC again. The biggest comparison for me is I don't care what anyone says, and everyone has their reasons for it, right? I always said BVS, the first movie, the live action Batman Superman not making a billion in the era of. It's not easy to make a billion, but it's pretty plausible with a lot of movies doing it. That was embarrassing. Now, embarrassing is like a loose term, right? Because it almost made 900 million profitable. Now, DC Warner Bros. Might kill for that, right? But at the time, and I still believe this, in that era, them not making a billion, that showed something was off to me. That should have been a fucking walk in the park. Should have easy money, too big to fail, right? And then even Justice League, again, talk about too big to fail. And from then, they've had such an interesting route as far as DC, where you had BVS come out. I'm going to get the Flash. I said, right, 55 million, which is just it's a catastrophic. I don't care what people says. Now, yes, now I'm all over the place. Let me finish this point. I'll get back to the BVS thing. I know people do the, it was already been going to be rebooted. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But it's still the idea of why did this film? It's almost like people that really like this film, and I do. I really like this film. You can go check out the review, get my final score. But I gave it, I guess I should say it for here because somebody's going to fucking come at me and be like, well, you didn't like it. Same as you didn't like it enough. I gave it 8.5. And I said I might be an 8, might be a 9. Got to see a little bit more. Had some issues, had some problems, stuff like that. But overall, I really liked the film and had some big home runs. But at the same time, my GV's Discord, the people I talk to, it's been completely mixed. It's kind of funny, like it was like the rollout of the movie where it happened at CinemaCon. People started saying the whole buzzwords, which was a mistake of best DC movie since Dark Knight. It's okay, it's nowhere in that category. And then people were seeing flash screenings or fan screenings, flash fan screenings, and then it was like more positive to mixed, right? And that's what kind of happened here, where I feel like the first wave of people that I knew saw it, liked it, loved it, thought it was really good, and now as more people have saw it, have come out and been like pretty mixed on it. And classic DC. It's very divisive, right? I feel like you got something like Ant-Man Quantumania where even if people liked it, no one was saying like this is the best the Ant-Man trilogy yet. Da, da, da. It was a pretty, decided upon, this is the weakest one, and it's varying degrees of whether you like it or not, right? Um, Same thing with this film, the complaints. We talked about this on the review. I talked about some vodka streamers. Check that out on Dave's channel, Film Junkie. It was tons of fun there and lots of debate there. Same thing where I think people have problems with this film, but all people have like almost different problems, So it kind of depends what boat you're in. But it doesn't matter. Take aside the fucking, just talk about it as a business, as a profit, because I've seen so many people, and I think the people that like the film do that. Well, it doesn't matter if, and I get it. I always hate this. These are the people that are just so, they're very fragile, or the people they follow are very fragile, or they live in a very weird bubble of the still doing the like, well, don't let the box office decide how you like the movie. We shouldn't just talk about the box office. That's that's been a fucking thing since like 2012, like talking about box office. And of course, because like you can't, to me, people go, oh, why don't you talk more about the good stuff of Flash and everything? Which you can, but that's to me what not Twitter is for. Like to have long conversations, it's that quick blurb of, hey, I really like this, and then you move on to the next thing. And what's the next thing? This. That's why people like myself have a podcast. So if you want to give a whole explanation of your feelings of why you like or don't like something, it's there. Or Letterboxd. Letterboxd is a great example. Like, that's a perfect tool. If I want to know exactly what someone thinks about film, that's where I'll go. Twitter is for the hot button topics and stuff like that, and I'm always sick and tired of the like, oh, well, people shouldn't judge it by that. No, no one does. And if you do, then yeah, you're a fucking loser. And if you're still worried people do, then yeah, you got something going on with you too. Because it's like, I can sit here and be like, I really like the film, and still be like, it was a huge disaster. Doesn't matter the reason why. And doesn't matter, again, people use that as a deflecting of like, well, it doesn't really matter because there wasn't going to be a sequel and a reboot. So let's just talk about the film. To me, what's worth talking about is the fact that, like, what happened here? Why did it happen? And at the same point, at the end of the day, they put out a film that they're still trying to profit. They're a fucking company trying to profit. I know there's already been projections. We got to see a lot of stuff, right? We got to see the second week, which I don't think it's going to be good. But we got to see all these things, see what it finally gets at. But someone was like, hey, judging by, the trajectory of this good film finished at like a 350, right? And if that's the case, it loses like 300 million. Right there is when people go, oh, the box office doesn't really matter. It does fucking matter. And you know why? Because, and this is where we have fun talking about, at least myself, to me, it is like the sports mentality of like stats and stuff like that. And you see how people are doing and whatnot. It's harder to measure because you can't measure the same way as like, hey, LeBron got these many from the three throw, because like, well, that's a certified thing. This, you don't know. And that's why it's, to me, the fun stuff talking about. It sucks that I like the film, want to do well, would love to see more Michael Keaton Batman, but that's not going to happen. And that's why it does matter, right? Because if you get $1 billion, a 0.5, a 2 billion, sure, maybe they're not going to not reboot, but that is the stuff like, hey, well, maybe Ezra sticks around. Maybe we do more of Michael Keaton. They talked about, Elseworld stuff. If this was a massive movie, then you'd be like, maybe we will do Batman Beyond. It's not going to be part of DCU, but maybe we will. And even from that point, again, it's just about profit. All these projects, all these movies, in majority of these companies are made to try and make a profit. And why this didn't, I don't know. And it's the same thing with BVS, right? There's tons of stuff of, it's too dark. And people say, it didn't have the 3-hour version. That would have done it, which I don't think so at that time. People thought, man, it still was divisive, which it was. Who knows, whatever it may be, right? We never know. And it's been on an interesting path, just DC overall. And that's what we're going to be talking about right now. It's just like, how did it get here? Because I guess before I start that path, it's just, I didn't think this was plausible, and I have no problem eating crow, especially on the Michael Keaton stuff. And I've seen, and it's tough now, right? Because there's a lot of people that said the same thing as me, but then it's like, oh, well, maybe they should use Christian Bale. It's like, well, yeah, now in retrospect, we know that, but I'm not going to be one of those people that goes like, yeah, I saw it. No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it making as much as $1 billion for sure. As we got closer to, because of projections and stuff like that. But I did not think this, because this is not even like an underwhelming thing. It opened lower than Black Adam. That is embarrassing. 4, you have The Flash, which I would say is one of the more popular DC characters. And I know you might go again the Ezra thing. We'll get there. But still, just alone, you got Ezra Miller. You got The Flash, one of the most popular DC characters, most iconic DC characters. You got that. A part of established franchise. Yes, it's been rocky, so never would I never bought the comparisons of this being the No Way Home of Marvel. No, not that, because that has a good track record of making their fans happy. Tom Holland's been around a lot longer, been a lot more stuff like that, and I'd say bigger names because it's not just Michael Keaton coming back and Michael Shannon. It's Defoe, Molina, Garfield. So different playing fields, right? But at the same time, you have them from a franchise that's been iffy, but still from a franchise. You're introducing a new Supergirl, which I think could have been fun, and Michael Keaton. And I thought that would do a lot better. And this is where it's interesting because I had so many people, like, my mother-in-law go at the time when they see this go, hey, I'm going to see that. And I asked, hey, did you see it this weekend? No. I hope the next weekend. If not, I'll catch it on streaming and stuff like that. I feel like it's a lot of people that came down to it. It's like the idea of Michael Keaton being back was cool, but when it came time to put up or shut up, and clearly they didn't want to. And this is the thing. What could it be? We're going to go down all these, right? Ezra Miller and their stories. Keaton maybe not being as big as we thought, or their generation just simply aging out of wanting to go see a movie theater, right? Which, Andrew and Toby, both more current, but so you got that. Is it just the movie? Just like the marketing? I thought the marketing was good, but just in general, like people didn't want to see it. Is it DC fatigue and being down at DC? I think there's a little bit of that. Is it this because they announced a reboot before? I don't know. And this is where it all comes down to your walk of life, right? Because to me, I don't know anybody that watches, and I'm talking about general audience. I don't talk about the GeekVerse podcast people and the listeners, because if you're in the Discord, you're not a GA member. You're in the thick of this, right? Maybe some of you are. Maybe you tune into our episodes like once every 3 months, and I'd probably count you for like a big review. But for the general audience people, and this is where everyone has a different story, right? Because I've seen so many people narrative of, oh, this is complete fact that because the DC reboot is out there, people are not showing up. And then you have other people, and people like myself saying, that's not the true thing. Like, no one's talking about this fucking DC reboot. It's just us now. And then you got other people go, well, no, I have people, like, it pops up on Instagram, all this stuff. Who knows? And you can't measure any of this stuff, right? And that's why at the end of the day, this is a collection of problems that happened. It's definitely not just one problem. It's not just the Ezra Miller stuff taking it down. No, I don't think it's just DC fatigue might be the biggest one. And if it's just franchise fatigue too, the same thing as like we talked about this in June. And this is where I still think there's something not obviously not clicking this movie, something where it's like, man, that is embarrassing from a studio standpoint. And the reason I say it's embarrassing is because, one, you're gonna all know you lose a profit on it, so obviously don't want that. It does hurt the brand because you're not looked at as a healthy brand. But you had Zazoff, James Gunn, and then you had all these people: Stephen King, Terry Crews, Shane Smith, Tom Cruise, like all this promotion, these fan screenings, which I agree with people now are probably a mistake in retrospect, because one, people weren't paying for it if they liked it, or they didn't like it, they're not going back. And two, word got mixed as we got closer and closer, right? They just promote it as one of the best comic book movies ever and stuff like that. And I don't agree with that. And I don't think okay, I shouldn't say that. I think lots of people, there are some people I've seen that do it, but I don't think it's like the Winter Soldier, where, hey, I don't personally feel that way about the Winter Soldier. That's one of the greatest comic movies of all time. But I see the argument, and when people are on that side, I go, oh yeah, I can buy that. I get that. This is not one I do. I could see you loving it, but I can't buy this as the great, like the Mount Rushmore, right? We all have our different, tastes. That's fine. So that's why it's embarrassing that they open lower than Black Adam with everything, especially with Michael Keaton coming back. That's a massive blow. But the fact that it's lower than Black Adam that's crazy. It's the worst of the worst, and that's where it's embarrassing. And that's where you go back to, it all comes down to your personal walk of life, and we can never put one, we can say, hey, this is the defining factor, this is why I think, but this is where it all comes back to, right? Is I've talked about this before, and I've talked about this where, on the Vodka Stream, people just scream me all the time because, they love Snyder's work, so of course they're not going to say that. And maybe they don't feel that way, and that's fine. But just even other people in general, where I remember, and the theory, it's tough to stick, right? Because it's with DC, oh, my eyes are, it's all over the place. And it's just my personal experience. That's all we have to go from. With Justice League, when that bombed, and it did very poorly, for me, the majority of the responses I got of, hey, why aren't you seeing Justice League? I didn't like BVS. I didn't like Suicide. I like those few movies. I didn't like those, so I'm not really interested in these. That's the majority of what I heard. That's someone like my mother, who, I think I've said this before, but called me and said, hey, I want to see Joker. And I go, I don't think Joker's your type of movie, but she wanted to see it. And she sees comic movies, like the bigger ones, because, growing up with me and stuff like that, but she's still like seeing a blockbuster here and there. And she knows what Justice League is. I grew with that. And the fact that she was one of those people like, no, I didn't really like that one. So I think I'm going to, bow out. And not think my mom didn't say bow, but you know what I mean, right? And again, from personal experience, when we were talking about people in the Discord, other listeners and stuff seeing it, a theme that I kept seeing was I had to see it alone because people didn't want to see it with me because they thought it was going to be bad. And I don't know if that's because they thought the other DC movies are going to be bad, if something about this movie, but that's where for me, and it's a tough theory, right? Because with BVS and Suicide Squad, they did very well. I am the camp that I think they do like Transformers. That's doing less now because I think people got burned by those earlier films. And you can still like a film and say it did like I like Last Jedi, but I can't deny that fucking tore the fan base apart, right? The same way as BVS. I like BVS. I don't love it, but I can like it and still go, yeah, that really maybe hurt the overall fan base. If you're just trying to keep a general happiness, which some people go, oh, you don't want to do that because that's not film. Sure, that same thing. You probably don't get a Zack Snyder's BVS. It's very divisive if you're just trying to get, similar like Marvel. There's many times where Marvel plays it safe, right? But if we're speaking from a business aspect point, that might be the smarter route. So again, it's tough because I go, well, Justice League, that's the reason, right? But Wonder Woman was a hit and Aquaman was a hit. So then is the case of, is Justice League because you had Batflick as the main lead and stuff like that, remind them too much of that, where Wonder Woman and Aquaman were just some characters they picked out. So same with them in Flash. Is that a character that they watched in Justice League? Like myself, was not a big fan of it. I don't need to see a movie of that. Maybe, because here's the thing. You got Wonder Woman, and maybe Wonder Woman is the thing of, oh, I really liked her BVS, want more. Or it's just because it's Wonder Woman. We don't know. And 1984 and the Suicide Squad, I'm going to take out these conversations because you don't know. They released in the fucking thick of COVID. Like, Wonder Woman released when it was the fucking that Christmas here where it's like you're not allowed to see any of your family. You got to stay all together, right? So I don't count those. So looking and even then I've seen people bring up Joker and Batman, and it's very tough, right? Because people say, well, because there's a tweet that lots of my mutuals were talking about, I was semi-agree with it, not fully, but I semi-agree with it of, Suicide Squad and BVS did irreparable damage to DC. I don't say that. I would say DCEU, but that's the same thing. Does the audience get the difference of it? Do they see the Batman Joker? I believe so, but do they see those and go, that's not DCU? Or is it just whatever it was, the trailer, the look, the stars want to see it? We don't get to know. All we have to know is the box office and what people turn up for. And that's why box office is important. It's not important in the sense of what you love or don't love. Get off that shit. It just sounds like you're fucking have a straw man argument. Like, okay, we get it. You can like your films and stuff like that. And then there's the business side of that, which is a big part of our, podcasting GeekVerse world, right? Because the only way we know how to look at Top Gun. Top Gun becomes a sensation and talked about and gets a best picture because people are going to continually see it. So hey, people like that movie. You can do that same thing with BVS and Squad. Say, hey, people got it to like 800, 900 million. People clearly want to see that. For me, I think it was those things had good trailers and people were very curious. And I think you did have some fans go back. But I think it was just because it was feeling like the start of a universe, right? And I think people saw it and not so much. But they support Wonder Woman, they support Aquaman. Wonder Woman, I can't really speak to. I think that was just a perfect place, perfect time. And maybe because it was the first Wonder Woman on the big screen. Aquaman, which, shout out to Superbad Mike, he had pointed out that no film since 2013 and 2014 had the Hobbit films, and those all made over 900 million. And then since then, other than the COVID year, they've all made $1 billion, which I was like, that can't be true, and it was. And that's where Aquaman, is that why it's there? Because let's start at Aquaman. Wonder Woman is definitely the anomaly, and even Aquaman could be that too, but let's start at Aquaman. So you have all this stuff and everything, you get the Justice League, that bombs, and you get Aquaman that makes $1 billion. So people kind of go, well, hey, this shows that maybe that was just a one-off, you can still get the audience back. After that, you get a sling of Birds of Prey, and you get Shazam, and then you get, not counting the COVID movies, you get Black Adam, and you get Shazam 2, and now Flash. They're all a mix of, and even then you can pull profit, but either they're a mix of small profit to underwhelming to bad, all box office wise, not quality, right? Shazam, it did money. It made, made a profit. It was lower budget, but still not blowing the doors off the hinges. And then to me, the sequel showed that, hey, people didn't care about that much. Didn't want to come back. Birds of Prey, sure, that tail end was cut off because of COVID, but the beginning was not going well. Black Adam, we saw what happened there. And who knows what Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad would have done, right? But then you have Joker and the Batman doing very well. But again, those are separate. So if you had more ones that were part of DCU doing separate or better since Aquaman, you'd say, hey, it is just ebb and flows. But since Aquaman, it's been a very kind of diminishing returns. Look at Black Adam. Look at Shazam 2. Look at Flash. It's not good. I think there is a bit of a... There is, I don't want to say it is exactly a DC problem because that's where you get into, right? Because there's different things, but I've always said this, Liam, who old school people might know, and hopefully we'll get him on after 9 soon. We got different time zones now, but still, me and him always used to have the same method where we're fans of DC, but we're more fans of Marvel. But we're more fans of Marvel? Batman. And I think many people do, like myself, Batman is its own brand, its own company. Now, of course, I think people would know, it's part of DC and stuff like that. But Batman in general, and you got Joker, those characters, those really bring out different people. Now, that's where I thought The Flash, bringing back not only a Batman, like I would feel like a Batman and Flash would be well, but not only bring a Batman, 2 Batman, and then one of them being Michael Keaton. And that's where with this movie, it goes against everything we've saw, because I guess you could make the case with Justice League too, right? That was a bomb and Batman was in it, but I feel like that was a very controversial Batman. And that's where it shows, okay, Batman is not completely bulletproof, but maybe it is the sense of, that's where the Batman fans, like GA fans, they may look at Batman and go, oh, I love him when he's by himself. I don't need him with the fucking super friends, right? And this could be the case with since Batman and Robin, which was another team-up film, but since Batman and Robin, the movies that have bombed the biggest is Justice League and Flash, and those are movies where he's in a team up scenario, right? So maybe it's just people want to just see Batman and they go, I don't need this whole collection of characters. I just want to see Bruce Wayne and Batman and his cast, right? Because it's the same thing. You don't get to see Alfred or Batgirl or Robin if they're in a team up, right? So I think there is something general about with DC. You got Joker 2, and then you got Batman, 2 coming out in 2025. Joker 2's next year. Again, I feel like people separate them enough, but we'll see how they do. I think they're both going to do well. I think because they are separate and they have an aesthetic, they're going to do well. Blue Beetle and Aquaman, I really don't know. Blue Beetle, I don't think is going to do well, or if it does well, it's going to make like a profit, but not huge. I think it looks generic enough for people to skip it, and it's at the end of summer when we've had a bunch of movies crap out, and that's where I was trying to get to. And I'm kind of all over that because there's so many things, right? But I thought with all the things that Flash had and we said this, right? June, pretty much what I said about Spider-Verse is what happened here. When you have the $55 billion opening weekend and 120, and you would ask me, hey, what openings are these for? I could say, okay, that's Spider-Verse, the 55, and the 120. And 55 would have been like a good improvement for Spider-Verse. It would have been exactly what I said, right? Of like, it's going to do a little bit better than the first, which was like a 30, I think it was 40 million opening. So it would have been like 15, 20 million more, and then the Flash, big 100 million opening weekend. But they're swapped, right? And what's the case? Is that because they're better movies? Is that because, there's a lot? And that's where it is too, where that is a true statement. People go, this movie got fucked because there's so many movies out. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, there's certain movies where people are going to go out and choose. And I thought The Flash was one of those they would choose. And they didn't. They didn't. And they didn't overseas either. That's the really weird thing where, same thing, the worldwide projections were 160, made 130. So just all these projections, it keeps coming under and under. So not great. So it's the thing of, like I said, what happened? And so we're starting there with the DC brand, right? It's definitely hurt. It definitely is not, because I was talking about this with a follower, Anthony, DC Outlaw. I think it's the whole name, right, Anthony? He listens to Marvel Alliance. That's where I kind of met him. And he said, like, he believes that maybe it's just if you see the Marvel logo, that's what's getting people in. And also we had Ant-Man this year, which did buckle and probably just like made a tiny profit, was the greatest. But still, we saw what happened with Ant-Man. But could that be true? Maybe. I don't think so, because you have other ones that go, like we said, the other DC Elseworld stuff that work. You have Aquaman. You have Blue Beetle, so we'll have to truly see. Aquaman's in December again. So could it do that run? Or is this going to be another one or is this going to be like the first one since it's going to be 10 years? Like the first one since 2013, 2014 that doesn't make $1 billion. I don't think so. I have a pizza bet with Superbad Mike because I think he said 800 million. I just took the under because I think I'm more like a 600, because I do think people, they might be fatigued from that type of the franchise of these connecting characters for whatever reason. And there's even the reason I would say that too is because there's even people fatigued on Marvel, which is more consistent than DC as far as their cinematic universe, right? So if they're fatigued there, they're definitely going to be fatigued over here. barring a few projects like the Elseworlds, right? And then there's the two ones that I think are minor. The Reboot and Ezra Miller. Reboot I kind of already established. I don't hear anyone in my personal life talk about Reboot when I talk about these films, and they wouldn't really care. They'll just go, oh, it's a new version of blank. I don't think enough word has spread for people to go, oh, like for our general audience, sure. Or sure, for our audience, sure, but general audience, I don't think so. I don't think they saw a Flash trailer, saw Michael Keaton, went, that looks fucking awesome, and said, oh, they're rebooting this all, and this is not going to make any sense, and it's not going to matter in the long run. And go, oh, returned. I don't think so. I think, maybe Marvel fans might be more like that, but I don't think it's the case here. Ezra Miller. I think it has a small role, but it's a similar thing of it affects more of our community. It's a small percentage. All these things are small percentages, but I don't think there's enough talk. And especially because I think they did the right thing as they did the apology tour. They did the I'm going to go get help. They went to the premiere. They acted very kind. I think there's probably some medication involved there to help with that. And that's not a bad thing. People need medication. I'm just saying, like, to keep people just kind of on an even keel. Did interviews, spoke well at the red carpet, thanking people and stuff like that. So they did everything they should have done in helping that situation as much as you can, other than finding complete proof that all that stuff didn't happen, right? Which some of it did. Don't allegedly, but I'm saying some of it didn't, at least as far as, seemingly the court way, right? But then there's times where he's pled guilty, or they pled guilty, so I digress, that's a mess. But again, I don't think people are, because they're hearing this and not purchasing anything. I don't think, as I've said before, these crimes are as bad as some other things that would happen, like a murder or sexual assault. There are tiers to them. I just don't think it is enough. Maybe there's a small percentage, but I don't think it's enough for multiple people to bow out to this degree. Let's take our first ad break, and then we'll keep going on and see, like, what the fuck was the mess. And we're back. Let's see. No water. I didn't even get a water before. I could leave, but I'm the lone man here, so I got to hold it down. So we went over, is it a general just DC tired? I'll say DCU tiredness. I think there's some of that, yeah, and I think that shows that this universe is definitely dead. And here's something where we'll go over in the end, but this is where, to me, it's like, this is a clear sign you reboot. And as hard as possible, obviously Gunn, I think, he's doing Peacemaker. There's some things going to keep us like being a complete hard reboot, but as far as distancing and not even mentioning this universe, you got a hard reboot and stuff like that. Ooh, sorry. So we went over, and this is where it's all the reasons. It's not one. Busy summer, Ezra reboot issues, sure. Tired of DCU. Not interested, I guess, right? Just simply not interested. Doesn't look at this and go, no thanks. I don't need to go see this. And I was surprised again. And that's where word of mouth's not going to be great. The cinema score was a B, which is below Black Adam. And this is where people are fucking nuts. And it's not, the be all end all, but still, the fact that it's the cinema score below Suicide Squad's 2016, not great. And those still show that, and I think BVS got B plus, stuff like that. They went on to make 800, 900 million. So cinema score is not a foolproof thing. It's just the best as far as it's most time probably not, unreliable narrators that have a agenda one way or another, right? So that's a B, not great, not great legs. All it has to do is, not all it has to do, but like, maybe there's like a surprise next weekend. It holds really well. Who knows? I've just seen nothing but empty theaters from people sharing. And when I was empty theater. It's just not connecting with people, and that's where there's just tons of things that it could be. And like I said, I don't want to say DC's dead. I'm not going to go that far. I think they are having issues. They've had issues for many years, right? But I think this was a big wake-up sign of, you got this movie with a returning star. And that's where, again, I miscalculated that. I thought Keaton would be a bigger draw, enough to get over the $100 million mark. I really did. And that's where it shows, people have made the point, and yes, maybe Bale has just supplanted that, because Bale is considered everyone's Batman, especially because they're the biggest ones, right? As far as box office wise goes. Yeah, I thought it would do a lot better and stuff like that. And the second weekend drop, we'll see, because she asked in our prediction episode about like I think it was 60% or something like that. And I think I said it was like 55 or under. I mean, it could be that, but that's just because 55 is super low. It could open to 25 million. That's still like a 55% drop. It doesn't take much. And you got just J-Lo out next, and then the next weekend's Indiana Jones. So it doesn't have much time. And I it's not going to. And this kind of like puts the nail in the coffin for Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller. I think they were already done before, in my opinion, but this is more so than ever. Okay, time to move on. And yeah, it's a shocking thing to me. It's one of these things where I don't think it has to be a billion to get. There's so many things like people say, oh, it has to do this to be successful. No, there can be breaking even is what people can look at successful. But this is one that's going to be looked at for many, many years. I think like what happened here. And as I've said on our review, I said this on Vodka. Everybody I've talked to, their general audiences seem to love it. My audience loved it when people on Vodka said, yeah, my audience loved it. So that's where it's like the cinema scores at the be all end all. Our theaters at least were quieter and stuff like that as far as just like how many people are there. But they're, it's just apparently not hitting with everybody and stuff. And is it over again? No, as far as like being a success for this film, not for like the future of it. Future's definitely dead. And we'll talk about that in a second. But to make a profit, who knows? Let's see that second weekend. I don't think it's gonna have a great hold, but I think it could still have a 55. Like I don't think it's gonna be a whole. People are hoping for like a 40 plus, where it's like the word of mouth spreads. Like that's the other thing too, where I don't think it's like, and this doesn't help, but at all too either. Blade Runner 2049. When that movie came out, talked to so many people, fucking loved it. Favorite movie of the year, better than the original. Right? Didn't matter how much praise there was. Next weekend, it bombed the first weekend, then the next weekend didn't tune too much, and it's a big bomb, right? If this was a Flash comic book movie with Michael Keaton, all the pieces we've talked about, and the people I've talked to are fucking raving about it, then saying maybe that word will spread. There's enough people that I've seen from our fan groups of Letterboxd giving like a 2, 2.5, a 3, a 2. Like these are not scores that you walk out and recommend to people, right? And this is the same thing where I referred to Liam, right? Where he's a comic fan, but he did get tired of them. Just like I think the quality of them, stuff like that, maybe being too much. He loves Michael Keaton's Batman, and that's where it's the same thing of like I would tell him he's gonna ask me, and because he's a Michael Keaton fan, but he's gonna ask me where this like should I see it on the film's merit alone? And I know with him where I go no, like I really liked it, but I know the different takes. I don't think he's gonna like it. That's even me, somebody like an 8.5 saying I don't think I can recommend this to you, right? And I don't think this is gonna be recommended to a lot of people, so it's definitely not good. It's I know some people, who knows what the Ezra Miller, so I've seen people say it's like karma. I'm not going to go that far because the person needs to be, put to trial and stuff like that. But if they're guilty of a lot of things, then yeah, it's kind of a wheel around. But so now you get Blue Beetle and Aquaman. Those got to come out. We'll see what they do. And then after that, I think you got Waller and Creature Commandos, but those will be on TV. That'll be fine. After that, the only DC movie, which is now good for them, I think, is Joker 2 in 2024. Yeah. I think, excuse me, I think the biggest break possible you can get from the DCEU, you got to take it. You have to make Superman Legacy feel unique. And we're going to talk about those with the endings there, but got to make it feel by itself, the start of something new, not tying it to anything, right? And I do believe this, where I think that'll help. We'll see what happens. But I think it's Superman Legacy. Maybe there's other films that will be in production, so we'll see. Hopefully they stay the guard. I don't want to, because I liked Andy Muschietti's films. I liked what he did with the Batman stuff. I don't want to be like Star Wars, where this guy had a bomb or a Ron movie or a guy or gal, whoever. Let's can them. They've lost momentum. I hope that, because to me that will be a big thing if we wake up with some announcement that Andy Muschietti is not doing Batman Brave and Bold, whatever it's going to be called. That's when I'll go, okay, now I'm not so convinced they're really about the quality and the plan, as far as, I shouldn't say the plan. They're more about the plan than the directors, which they've said they're not. They want to be director driven and have different visions and studios and stuff like that, or studios, different ideas. If it's a case of, creative differences or scheduling differences, and he's gone, then you're doing the Kathleen Kennedy thing of, these persons just had a movie that bombed. Let's pull them for better or worse, because sometimes it is for better. Colin Trevorrow. Let's take our last ad break here, and then we're going to talk about, I took mine a little bit later. We're going to talk about these original Flash endings and just more so on. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So what were we just talking about? I just completely blanked on the last topic. My goodness. But, right. The Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars DC thing. I hope that's not it. I hope the shows they're committed to a plan to be like, Andy wants to direct. Unless Andy were to legitimately step away, If they want him to direct it, let him direct it. Don't matter what this whole buzz is, especially if you think it's the greatest comic book movie of all time, or one of the greatest, and you get rid of him, kind of doesn't look the greatest. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, and then this article came out today, which we've talked about before, but this was the official breaking down of it, where it's like the original Flash endings. They had 3 of them, right? Because you gotta look at it. There's 3 regimes. There was the Walter Hamada regime. There was the Pam Addy and Michael DeLuca, where they were just like running DC Studios, but like in lieu of, just like as a substitute teacher until they got Gunn, and then Gunn came in and had his own ending. And this is where it is tough. This is where I think that it is good to do the clean break, because I've talked about this with Clay and Kate, because we had a pizza bet, me and Katie, because her point was, they should have just rebooted here. One, and this is the same thing for her, in retrospect, it's good they didn't, because with the box office, people wouldn't have got the message, right? And 2, I think now more than ever, and Gunn maybe saw the tea leaves here, and now more than ever, I think when Superman Legacy comes out, it has to have zero tie to this universe, alluding to it, whatever it may be, which will be fine, because we got 2024, which is Joker, which won't do that, and then 25, which wouldn't do that. And that's where you have the 3 original endings, where the first ending was what we heard about, where it's going to be Keaton and Sasha Calle replacing Affleck and Cavill, and then Batgirl's going to happen, and so on and so forth. And the second ending, when Walter Hamada was out, where they got Cavill back, he was supposed to be there with Sasha. I guess I should have said spoilers. Shit. Spoilers for the Flash, obviously. But you should have heard the original endings, right? But here's your spoiler for the third ending, which is the real ending. Oh. So it was Cavill coming back, because that was the plan, to get him Superman 1 and Godot. So the Justice League pretty much was going to be Ezra's Flash, Sasha Supergirl, Superman as, Cavill, Godot, and Keaton. Which, as I've said before, I love that idea. And then the original end, or then the third ending, final ending, was someone pulls up as Batman, and it's George Clooney, and you get the great, who the fuck is this line? Great fun little ending. Excuse me. I was all for, and as I've said many times, I'm a broken record for the old listeners, I was all for let's try and salvage this. We have people like Cavill, people like Godot, whose stars have risen, who are great in these roles. Let's keep them. You have Sasha, who people are loving. You have Ezra, that was a little iffy, and then you have Michael Keaton, who at that time I thought had bigger stock. I think performance-wise, he still killed it, so I'd be fine with it. That to me was the ending, right? But Gunn is clearly wanting to go his own way, and that's the thing where this was the final nail in the coffin for that. If at any point this would have made lots of money, Zaslav at least probably would have been like, hey, I hope you're doing the right thing here, because we're throwing away these characters and these actors, and people are jiving with this. Like, I hope this is right. Where now, I myself, who look at them like, that's a fun little Justice League. I want as much Keaton as possible before he leaves this earth as Batman. Like, yeah, give it to me. Like, please. I like all these other, like Cavill. I wanted to see more Superman Henry Cavill, but we're not getting that. There's no case for me or anybody else to make now. It's done. It's over. It's DOA. Even if Aquaman makes a bunch of money, then it's just like, well, clearly people like Momoa's Aquaman. That's what I take away from that, right? Blue Beetle, who knows? But even then, I think if Blue Beetle does well, I don't think it's going to be like an $800, $900 film. I think it'd be like the most maybe $500, make like a good profit. So we'll see. But it bombing kind of makes this pill a little easier for me, because I would have been like, man, it would have been great if we could have got that, but Gunn decided to go a different route. With it bombing, go, well, it doesn't matter, because even if they had that original ending in there, bombing would have went away. And I talk about it with Fanboy Clay, and I've seen other people talk about this, and there's been such a mix, right, of ending 2 was a perfect end, which I don't agree with that, but it's a perfect end of the Snyderverse, because it shows that, there's like a team out there together as Justice League, and they're doing their own thing, and you could, because the multiverse rules revisit at any time, right? And then you have the other side, and this is the side that I'm not so much on, but I'm on the sense of a business-wise of, hey, Gunn didn't want to do that, because that would just cause more hubbub, more hashtags, more I want this person, and if you're not going to deliver them, why do that? And I agree with that. I think if you, for the most part, the general audience, like in my mind, go from what have you done for me lately, right? And that's why I think some of these DC films are not doing good, because they see Birds of Prey, or they see, no, that's the best one. They see Black Adam, they see Shazam 2, and they go, these are not that great, and I'm not going to go see the next one, right? So in my mind, if the audience, which I think work that way, and they see this ending of these people together, you would assume when you get a Superman Legacy film, it would be Cavill. You would assume when you're getting a Justice League or whatnot, you're seeing these characters, people go like, what the fuck's happening? I saw this movie where it sets it up, and where is it? I think they were smart, especially now, but I think they were smarter to do it that way. I like the idea of the original ending more and capitalize on it, but that's again dead in the water. I think people would expect it. I think people would get more rallied up of, oh, they're there and we need to say more. You guys set them up. I think the Clooney thing, when people call it the worst ending, it's like, I'm mixed on it. I get what I think. If you're in the camp of that second ending would have closed the Snyderverse, sure. People that are even saying about the first one, it's like, okay, I was around fucking Twitter when Keane was announced as he's gonna probably be the next like DCU Batman, and people just or DCEU Batman, people just fucking hated it. It's like, okay, a little hypocritical now just because he didn't like this like kind of joke ending. But I think to keep it by itself, that's it's the best route is do this, and sure, maybe in years from now we can, you know, go and go, what am I looking for? God, not rediscover. I don't know. There's a certain word that I've completely forgot, but you can just go and reminisce and be back in that universe, like Toby, like Andrew in No Way Home, right? Like Ford in Star Wars a little bit. You can recapture some of that magic, but one, we have to see if we can get there. Let's see how these DC films hit, because if Superman Legacy does not do well, you're just going to get solo stuff, or it's going to get sold again and figure, oh, this is a mess. Like, and maybe that's the way it is. Maybe we will just never get a fully this DC connected universe here from 2013 to 2023. Maybe that's as good as it gets, and that's the best it was going to be, right? Kind of a hodgepodge, a little bit better than some of the back half of the X-Men cinematic universe. So to me, I get if you think that way. I think this ending is just like fine. It's a fun little gag here. It doesn't lead to anything. It's just like another capper to like, oh, the history of DC, George Clooney, great. I think that second ending does do a what have you done for me lately? And what you did for me lately was show me a Justice League, and now they're not there, and could create more backlash. Where now we're moving on fully, right? And hey, if there was any part of Gunn that was hoping these films were gonna bomb, to help his vision go forward, that definitely worked out for him. And it, like I said, the ball's in his court now to, okay, what can you do? Like, people are going to miss the brand a little bit. And that's why I think Aquaman had another thing. It was people liked Momoa in the role. It was December, but you got to remember, Justice League came out in 2007, November, and Aquaman came out 2018, December. There was a long gap. And that's where Joker 2, Superman Legacy, that could benefit, because Joker 2 is going to be in like probably the fall, right, of next year, because Oscar season. And then the Batman is 2025, but I could see that getting pushed. Right now, Superman is what I think it's like April, or let me just search this up here. Just see realistically what would happen. Superman Legacy Part 2 date. Okay, so release date July 11th. So let's say, because I think the Batman's March something, right? The Batman Part 2 release date. Oh, no, I got pushed to October. Okay, so we're good there. So you get Joker that's in October. So you get a whole break of a whole year, and then you get one that's Joker that's by itself, separate, and then you got November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. You get that year break, one Joker, and 9 months. 9 months. To me, that's for the best. I don't think I'm with the people that say they should just scrap. Like, that's where it's tough. I think DC could use a break, but I don't think you should scrap Aquaman and Blue Beetle or just put them on Max, right? Because there's a chance. You never know. The same reason people did not think Aquaman was going to win those Bumblebee and Mary Poppins and was going to fucking not make $1 billion. It did. So you never know. Same thing with Blue Beetle. Maybe I'm completely wrong there. You put that out and that's a smash hit. And James Gunn says a shit that he's a DCU character, but it's not a DCU movie and stuff like that. Pretty much, I'm paraphrasing. That's where you can go, okay, let's bring this character along. So I think they're worth a gamble. I think the marketing on them could be smaller, like Shazam, so we'll see there. But let's say those come out and both kind of eat it, don't do well. You have those two, got the one film, and then even then, so Aquaman comes out December. Let's say Joker came out in October. You get a 10-month break, one film, and then another 9-month break. Over a year and a half. And if you get a year and a half and Superman Legacy comes out and does underperform, then it's it. Throw the baby out with the bathwater, then we're done. I'm not saying it has to be $1 billion movie. No, just like profitable. Somewhere goes, we could create more of this universe. And hopefully James Gunn, the leader of that, will do that, because I want these things to survive. I want these things to happen. It is scary seeing comic movies this year, like be a little 50-50 of some doing really well and some doing meh. But, stuff like Guardians and Spider-Verse luckily do well. That makes me happy. Go, okay, perfect. We're still here, because I love this stuff, you know? And it was a bummer for the Flash wise because it was just, I think it is like it is a better movie, but at the same time, it's like I said earlier, it's not like the Blade Runner 24/9 effect where everyone loves it and it's bombing. I know tons of people that they did not like it. They thought it was mid, that was meh. They're not going to recommend it. And that's right. Okay. Well, it's not surprising, you know? So yeah, it's going to be something that's talked about for a very long time of why this did what it's did. Also, we'll see the next few weekends, but just a catastrophic, embarrassing, really bad opening weekend. If you're just talking about business and box office, not good at all. There's no single positive way to describe this. When multiple projections, you come in low, and to this extent of it, right? And they threw a bunch at it, and people are, I think, ready for a break and ready for a reboot. And that's why people, oh, all these other franchises, Fast will continue to go down, Transformers, and even Guardians. You look at Guardians, that's like down a little bit from 3, about 60 million, not too bad. But then there's other things that won't do that, right? And we are in a world where we've had 5 films hit $1 billion since 2021, the end of it. So it's not the norm again, but it has happened, and that you can do it, right? So that's the problem. It has pressures again of other things, and hopefully Superman Legacy, they're going to keep the budget low. That's why maybe we're going to get some new names or not too expensive names in there and stuff. So yeah, we'll see what happens with second week, and obviously at least with the future of this, we don't have to see that because we know, hey, we did know where it was going. It's just the fact of how does this maybe hurt Warner Bros. Going forward as far as, you know, profit and gain and stuff like that. Does this hurt them on the back end? Does this hurt them with the, you know, marketing of a, you know, Superman Legacy, or just like the production of that, right? Like, is it they don't have enough money to put into it? They were banking on this one with CinemaCon and everything. We all know they were fucking banking on this being a big thing. I think that's why I said before it's tad embarrassing, because whatever you want to say, they thought this was a smoking gun and the Flash was going to come in and make a lot of money. If it makes on par Black Adam, I don't think Shazam, but make on par Black Adam, that's a big egg in your face. And yeah, you got to step back and see. But I'll be there for Blue Beetle. Be there for Aquaman. I'm hoping to like him. Like the Flash, I like him. I will watch this film again many times. I like the Core Barry story. I was disappointed with some of the writing of Keaton, but his performance was good and some Batman action was good. I like Sasha enough. Needed more of her. But so yeah, I liked it. But clearly the rest of the world either didn't like enough to recommend it or had no interest in finding out if they liked it. And we'll see what happens in the next little while. Hopefully heads don't roll and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Just a one topic one today, just a little bit smaller, because I think near the end of the week, because Dylan's gone, I think there's a period where it's like a Friday, Thursday, where Dylan, Kirkland, and Taylor are all gone. So that's where I'm like, I think I'll be throwing out a little Travis told you action. So there's supposed to be some trailers this week. So that's why it's not news centric. I know I didn't talk about the CM Punk thing. Maybe I'll talk about that on Wednesday after Dynamite, because I'm very mixed on that. There's some stuff that's true, not true, you know, debatable and stuff like that. But thank you very much for tuning in this episode. Go listen to our review if you have it. And I promise when you hear from me next, it'll not be boring.